This is just what he said in. A minute ago.
Jeff or Don, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
The 1099s are password protected. Do you know what the password is or how we find that out?
So you should have an email from Veronica at fathomrealty.com that let me see, I'll tell you what the subject line is. Subject line.
Aha,
or
I do remember seeing that.
2022 Form 1099, and it tells you how to
Yes.
figure out what your password is.
I remember seeing that one. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hold on a sec.
All right, guys, it's 11 o'clock, so we'll get started here. Renee can hear me, so I think that means you can all hear me, hopefully. So the premise of this class is, those of you that were with iPro before, you have probably all lost the ability to log on to the SkySlope that was provided through. Will you pull that door, Scott? Thanks. It's a Zoom class.
We're in class, we're not live.
Nope, not live Zoom.
Well, then I'll get on the computer.
Okay. Yeah, so if you had access through iPro before to the regular SkySlope, just the SkySlope suite, then at this point you've probably lost that as we've gone through our year. And so at this point, you know, you'll need to transition over to a different digital signature manager. Give me just 1 second here. Okay. So, you know, you can use whatever digital signature manager you want. And let me just share my screen here. So just to start this whole thing off, let me make a really clear distinction between the two products that we're talking about and what they do. The first one is IntelliAgent, right? And your IntelliAgent transactions, this is where your transaction management is. This is where you'll put your documents in. This is where those documents will be in order to be approved. This is how you'll get paid. This is where Fathom sees all your stuff. This is where I, as a district director, see all your stuff, or your branch broker. That's where they're going to see this stuff. And so that's what this is used for. SkySlope Forms via the MLS. Get back to it here. SkySlope Forms via the MLS. This is going to be a digital signature manager, right? So this is about getting your forms filled out and or signed. And so that's what you'll use SkySlope Forms for. It's not going to be used as a transaction manager. It doesn't have the integration like SkySlope used to when we had integrated checklist and digital signature manager in one. Those two products are separate. So just try to remember that as we're talking about SkySlope Forms, This is only about getting your products signed, your form signed, right? And getting those available to be uploaded into IntelliAgent. So before I start that, the one thing, just a reminder, aligned showings. So aligned showings is taking the place of showing time. That will be our new showing service. The reason that that's happening, I've been asked this a couple of times. The reason that's happening is because Zillow, over a year ago now, bought showing time. And realtors were in an uproar that, hey, now Zillow has access to all this information about showings and number of showings and all those kind of things. And so a number of MLSs banded together and went out and bought this aligned showings and made it a product that's going to be something that's hidden from the eyes of Zillow, right? So we're not selling our data to them. We're just giving it to them, really. So that's why the change, aligned showings will take over for about a month or so. I think you'll see both showing time and aligned showings show up on listings. So however you want to use that, but just be aware that that's in there. Any questions before I dive into SkySlope forms? Okay. All right, so let's dive into SkySlope forms. So to get into SkySlope forms, this is a free product that, well, it's free with your MLS dues, right? So because you pay MLS dues, you get access to SkySlope forms for free. And so to be able to use this product, just go into your MLS account and click on the SkySlope forms. That'll pop you into a new window. And this will show you, this is your main window. This window shows you all of your transactions that you have going, how many forms are loaded into each one of those. Well, your representation buyer seller, how many forms are in each particular transaction, and then how many envelopes. Envelopes are the number of packages that you've sent out to be signed by your clients. So when you're looking for signed forms, you'll look for them in envelopes. When you're looking for blank forms, you'll look for them in forms. So this is going to be your main dashboard. This is where it will show anything that you're currently working on. This end, 3 dots here, gives you the option to either rename it. If you want to name this file something different, you can duplicate it. So if you want to do something exactly the same on the same property, you can duplicate that. Or if you're done with it, this one, for example, I can just archive. I'm done with that one. And that will take it off of my dashboard. It goes into my archive so I can always find it, but it's not cluttering up my main screen as far as what I'm actually working on. So that's the options that you have here on your main page. You can search for files if you've got a whole bunch of them. You'll create a new file when you're starting a new file for your client. And so let's go through this way, and then I'll go back and show you a different way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you archive, it's stored in their cloud, correct?
It is stored in their cloud. You can see right here, here's my archives. So if I go into my archives, I still have access to all of these envelopes, but at any point in time, I can go ahead and pull up this archive. I guess I have to unarchive it to do it. That's crazy. But in any case, you would restore it, and you can go into it and pull those documents up.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's always stored here. My understanding is that it will always be here. Always is a really long time. So I would tell you that you want to back up your own files. That's part of what you sign up with as a realtor, is you're supposed to keep all of your files for a minimum of 4 calendar years. Well, 3 full calendar years. I tell everybody 4 just to make sure. So make sure that you're backing that up in your own system as well. But yes, SkySlope Forms does keep those.
And will it restore? I mean, will it move a file in mass to another, like an external hard drive or something? Or do you have to do it individual form by form?
Form by form.
Ugh,
There's no way to easily pull them all down, unfortunately. And neither of our systems has that ability right now. I've asked for it in IntelliAgent, and hopefully that will come. But you also can't do that in IntelliAgent, which would be really nice because that has your full transaction, everything. And if you could just pull that in one zip file, that would be really nice. So hopefully that comes to pass.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say that you just went and showed a property. At this point, the buyers have said, yes, I'm ready to write an offer. You haven't done any paperwork with them whatsoever at this point, and you want to start a file for them. So you would go into your MLS account, come into SkySlope Forms, and you would create a new file for this client. This is going to be just like SkySlope, regular SkySlope. Obviously, they're the same company. It's going to go through and ask you a number of questions. So in this case, we represent the buyer. Say Bob, buyer. And we'll put in his email address. You need to make sure the email addresses are correct and that each one has one. This is where those envelopes will go, the forms will go, so that they can use the digital signature. The nice part about this one is it's super easy to use a company or a trust. So for example, it was a company instead, I would just click that box. It lets you put in the organization name. And then from there, you can put in who it is that's going to sign for that. If you have more than one buyer or one seller, you can add additional contacts, and you can add as many as you would like. So that's how you'll add your clients. If you need 5 or 6 or 10, you can add as many clients in here as you want. The next thing that it asks you is it asks you if there's a property yet. And you can import it by just simply typing in an MLS number. Right, so if I wanted to import that one, I could just import that and it will bring in all the information. It'll bring in Brandy as the listing agent so that you could send documents directly to her through this product if you want. It will bring in address and all that kind of information. On this one, I'm just going to do it manually. So you can do it manually if it's not listed or if you prefer to do it manually. Amazingly, there are actual test streets in the United States. So you'll put your property information in, and then it asks you how you would like to name the file. And you can do this however you want. You can do it by address, or you can do it by client. You can also just go in here and do it your own way. So if I wanted to name it Bob 123 S Street, that might give me a little more information when I'm looking at that main page if I've got a lot of files that I'm working on in order to differentiate those two things. And then once you have this filled out, this is the main information that you need, you'll create this file. So from here, it looks very blank, right? We don't have anything in it. There's no forms, there's no envelopes, there's no file details. Since we're starting with a buyer who's looking to go ahead and make an offer, the best thing to do is add forms. Now there's 3 ways to add forms. I'm going to go through these 2 ways. Apply templates is a more advanced feature, and so I'll go through that at some other time in another class. But today we'll go through the 2 main ways to add forms. The first way is through the SkySlope Forms product itself, and that's adding forms. And so as I add forms, it brings up my library of forms and all the forms that I have in it. Hold on just a second. I've got Brett asking for the password to this meeting. Hey, Maya, will you call Brett Taylor? Okay. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so as you come in, you'll have a full forms library here that shows all of the forms that you have access to. Depending on your level, you'll probably have all the UAR forms. I have Colorado forms in here as well, just because I'm a Colorado realtor as well. But depending on what you have, all of those forms are available for you here. Obviously, the easiest way to find your forms is not going to be scrolling through to find them. So we know as a buyer's agent that we're going to need the buyer broker agreement. So I'll just type it here. And so it gives you the number of forms that you can use. This is the one we're looking for, exclusive buyer broker agency disclosure. We'll add that one. We know that we need the buyer due diligence. So we'll add that one. We need wire fraud. And we need the buyer version. If you're representing the seller, make sure you use that seller version. The reason is that it auto-populates signatures. And if you have the wrong one, it won't auto-populate your signatures for you. So you'll add your wire fraud. We need our rep C.
Will it know if you have one or more buyers or sellers?
It does, yep. So if you have two sellers, it will fill two signatures. If you have one seller, it will just fill the one signature. So we need to add the rep C in this one. Obviously, the next one is title. Right, deposit of earnest money with title. And then if you had other addendas or something that you wanted to do, let's say closing cost addendum, you can add as many forms as you want to this. If you want to see what forms you've added, you scroll this up a little bit so you can see it.
Hey Jeff, can we make a template on this so that it's just a new buyer pack and have all the stuff that always use?
100%, yeah. So once you get it all added, you are able to just do a template, and then from there you'll add all those forms in one go. And again, that's a more advanced feature that I'm not going to show today, but that template feature is available so that you can do that. As you can see at the bottom, it shows that I've added 6 forms. If I want to see what those forms are at that point, I can click that up arrow, and that will show me all the forms that I have. Once I'm sure that I've got the forms that I want, then I just click next. And that adds it, as you can see, to the list of forms that are available now in this packet. So these are all blank forms. They haven't been signed. Nothing's been done with them. They're just available for me to use.
Jeff,
Yeah.
can you drag those and move those into a particular order, or do you have to add those as you add them in the order that you want?
You can see that I can
Oh.
change them around here on the screen as much as I want.
Okay.
But I'll show you as we go to sign. You can also change the order in the signature platform so that you can make sure that they go in the right order. So for example, you would always want to have your buyer broker be first so that that gets signed first.
Right.
So your options here, you've got a little 3-button menu on each one. If at this point, let's say that you love to get your forms signed in ink, right, wet signatures, you can just go ahead and download these forms and print them out, take them with you. Also, if you've added a form that you don't want anymore, you can delete that out of this file so that you don't have that in that file anymore. And in this top corner, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little circle here. That circle is the checkbox to select that particular form. Because in this case, we're wanting to not just sign one form, we're wanting to sign multiple forms. So we'll select all 6 forms that we want signed. And you can see that at the bottom, it's got 6 forms selected. At this point, I could print them all, I could download them all, or I can fill and send. And in this case, I would want to fill and send. Before I go to this next feature, though, I want to show you the other way to get documents into this platform. And this is, let's say that this is multiple uses, right? If I wanted to if I wanted to go back to the MLS, and I want to use the legacy forms library. Let's say a closing cost addendum. If I wanted to,
I need the meeting number, the meeting ID.
I'm not sure who that is. You need the meeting ID.
Yes, so I can get in on my computer.
Okay, so our meeting ID is right here. 870126 5271.
Thank you so much.
And the passcode is 1443. Okay, so I could fill out this addendum here on the MLS. You can see I'm not in SkySlope forms anymore. I've gone back to the MLS. I could fill this out if you have your buyer packets or whatever, and you prefer to fill them out here. You can certainly do that. You would then download it, your print PDF. Download this document. Then coming back over to SkySlope Forms, I can upload a document here, right? It gives me a little window. I can grab that PDF and drag it in. And that form is now available for me to use. You'll see here at the bottom, that closing cost addendum is now in there, and I can fill and send this. Now there's a difference between these forms that we added through SkySlope Forms and the SkySlope and the document that I just added through the MLS. These forms have fillable fields that I can change on the fly as we go through, and I'll show you those. This form is a flat PDF. There's nothing there that I can change on the document itself other than adding fields to it or adding signatures to it. So I'll show you the difference in those. I'll add this as a bottom one, and I'll take this closing cost out so that you can see the difference there. So those are the two ways. And this way, this upload documents is the same. If you're a listing agent and you receive an offer and it needs to be signed, you can create this file. You can upload that directly from your email so that it comes in, and then you can get it signed here without having to add forms and redo anything here. So this signature platform can be used for any PDF. It can also be used for the SkySlope forms that are automatically loaded into your account. Any questions at this point before I go through the signature details? Okay, so at this point, we've got the documents in that we need. We've got them selected. You can see I've got 6 forms selected, and at this point, I'm going to fill and send. And I might have to expand my window for that to happen. Okay, so on this side, you can see this is, and let me move this over just a little so you can see both a little better. This side shows the forms that you have that are going to be signed, and this side shows the form that you're currently on. So currently I'm on the buyer broker. If I wanted to go to the wire fraud, I can click down and see wire fraud. Any of these will pop up as I go to them. It was asked if you can reorder them, and this is a place that you can reorder them. So if I wanted to have, for some reason, I wanted to have my deposit of earnest money signed very first, I can drag that up to the top, and that will be the first form that they sign when they go through. Right? So those are your options to move those around as much as possible or as much as you need. And then also you'll see as I mouse over this, it brings up a little minus sign for each form. If you decided that, hey, you know, in reality, I don't need the buyer due diligence checklist, I can just click that and that's gone. It's no longer there. It's no longer going to be in my packet of the documents that are going to be signed. If I go back to my buyer broker now, just from the start, you'll see that it's already filled some information in. Because of my account, it's filled in who my brokerage is. It's filled in my name. It's filled in the buyer's names because we put those in earlier, Bob's LLC and Sally Buyer. And the rest of this is something that you'll have to go through and fill out. So any of these blue areas can be added. So if I'm going to take a 3% on this buyer commission, I'll put in the expiration date. So when I click on the date, it pulls up. And the expiration date of this buyer broker would be June 30th. It automatically fills that in for me. You would type in your county or your property address, action period. You'll see that right now it's not showing anything for buyer initials or date. There's nothing here, and you can't do anything at this point. This section is solely to fill out your forms. So you'll go through and fill out each one, making sure that you get all the information that you need in each form. It will auto-populate again each form automatically, so you don't need to worry about that, but signatures and date comes at the next portion. If I go down to my form that I pulled in from the MLS, this closing cost addendum, you can see that I filled in the one on the MLS. The rest of this is non-fillable, so I can't click into it. It also has not auto-populated my buyers here like these other forms did. So this form is just a flat PDF. There's nothing that I can do to change this at this section of the signing of this product, right? So that's all you can do is fill the ones that are currently filled. PDFs, they'll come at a later date. Questions on filling out your information? Okay, a couple of options here at the top. Let me pull this in just a little bit so you can see it.
Hey,
You have
Jeff.
the ability, yeah, go ahead.
Hey, it's Eric. So from what I can see then for right now, you're better off using SkySlope forms for the auto populate feature.
Yeah, once you get used to it, this is a much better way than using it through the MLS, because the MLS you'll have to go through and do it all.
Yeah,
Right. So this way it automatically fills information in. It can pull information in from an MLS data. And so you can put in an MLS number and it'll pull that information in. So if you get used to this, it doesn't take very long, but this is by far the best way to do it.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. You do have the ability to do strike throughs. I would tell you that strike throughs are not awesome. We don't love them at the brokerage. We don't want you striking through anything. You can also print all these forms. So once you get it all filled out here, you can print them and take them with you. And you can download them if you need to download them and keep them for any reason. At the bottom, you have three options. So at this point, Scott asked about keeping a template. If you've got this all set up and you want to save this template, you can do that here. We won't go through that at this point. If you've got it all filled out or partially filled out and you're not quite ready to move on to get it signed, you can go ahead and save and exit, and that will save the progress. You can come back in and finish it up at a later date. Prepare signature, that's the one we'll go to next, which allows you to prepare the signatures on it. And then in this corner over here, you've got add forms. So the form that I took away, if I decide, hey, at this point, I want to bring it back, I can go in and say, hey, it's this buyer due diligence checklist. I actually did need that. And that will bring it back in. So that will be here for us. Okay, so let's go to the next stage, which is preparing your signatures and getting things ready for your clients to be able to sign. You've
Do
got
that
all your
again.
forms.
Can you, Jeff, show me that again? Sorry, how you brought that one back in.
Yeah, no problem. So here at the bottom, you've got add forms.
Okay.
Go to add forms. It gives you a couple of ways to do that.
Oh,
If it's already in your file, which it was for me, I clicked on add from this file and brought it in. If it's a new form, let's say you forgot to bring in a form that you need, right? Let's do a contingency. I could just add this contingency in, right? And that will add it. The third way is if I wanted to upload a form that I forgot at this point, I could upload one just like I did in the past. Those are your three ways to bring in new forms. If you forgot to get them at this point, you're like, oh, I totally forgot to get my deposit of earnest money. No worry, you can just add it right here before you go on to the prepare signature.
and while I've got you, then the SkySlope does not have the ability to use the pull down menus on the Repsi addendum then, right? You'd have to go into the legacy to do that.
As far as the clauses, is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
the clauses, yes.
Yeah, it does not currently have the clauses that I'm aware of. I've asked about that feature and see if it's going to be added or point me in the right direction. But as far as I know, those clauses aren't currently available. You'd have to look at those on the MLS.
And pull it over.
So, for those of you who are wondering what that is, let me go back to the MLS and just show you. If I go to the forms library, and an addendum to the real estate purchase contract. Here in the available clauses, there's a bunch of clauses that you could auto-populate into an addendum. These clauses don't auto-populate. Most of these are standalone addendums on their own, like the closing cost addendum. So if I wanted to add the closing cost addendum to this, I could do that. It'll let me.
It's just helpful. Those are helpful
Yeah.
if you want to combine several things on one addendum though. You know.
Yeah, that's the nice part about this. The other form that is extremely nice to fill out here on the MLS and bring over into SkySlope forms is the buyer due diligence form. And the reason is the other feature that SkySlope doesn't have is the addendums here have the ability to expand and contract as needed. So as you're typing information into all of the repair items that you need in that buyer due diligence form, it will expand as needed. Whereas on SkySlope forms, that these fields don't expand. They get to this point and that's as long as it'll go. So you may not be able to fit everything into that particular addendum. So just side note, that's one that you'll want to probably fill out on the MLS and bring it into the SkySlope product at this point. Other questions before I go on? Okay, so at this point, we're ready. We've got our forms filled out. They now just need signatures. So I'll click prepare signature. This asks me who needs to sign. So I have the option buyer, and myself. The options are to either receive a copy of it, to take no action whatsoever, or they need to sign. Now, I know that as a buyer's agent, I need to sign the buyer broker agreement. And so I need to change that over. And obviously, both buyers need to sign it as well. This envelope name is a name that the buyer will see when they receive it in their email. So you can change that if you need to change that at this point. You can also change this to be something like initial documents. And that will help you so that when you see it in all of your envelopes, you can more easily identify what it is that you sent to them. Once you've identified what it is that each person needs to do, so we've got 2 buyers who need to sign and me as the buyer's agent. Look next.
Jeff,
Yep.
question, when you say needs to sign, does it automatically send a copy to them once it's signed?
It does. If you're a signer, you automatically get a copy. If you are needs a copy, then you don't sign, but you do get a completed copy at the end of it. So
Thank
for
you.
example, if you added the listing agent in and for some reason you just wanted it to go directly to them or a TC or something like that, you could add them as a non-signer, but receiving a copy. Okay, so at this point, that's brought my forms in. You can see on this side, all of those forms are now listed. On this side, it shows the form that we're currently on. Up above, it shows, let me move it over just a little, shows who the signers are. And under this box, it has those 2 signers or all 3 signers at this point that you can use. This top portion shows the different items that you can add to the forms: a signature, initials, their full name, the date.
Yeah.
This one says time, but what it really is time and date. So it adds, I'll add one here so you can see it
Jeff,
adds.
quick question.
Yeah,
I might have been looking down, taking notes. How did you get back to this screen from where you were on the other one, or does it just transfer automatically?
so it
Something on the bottom.
automatically transfers over as soon as when you're in the signing part and you assign who it is that needs to sign. Once you click
Okay.
next, this is the next screen that comes up.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And so again, this is date and time. So if you ever see a field that needs date and time, that's going to put that in. You can see, I'll make that bigger, that this is, well, I guess that's as big as it goes. So I guess you can't have very big ones, but you can put the date and the time there. And then under more, you have the option to do a checkbox, a text field, and a strike through. Please don't use strike throughs, please. But checkboxes and text fields we will go through. Okay, so on this side, we've got our recipients. You can see all 3 there. You also have the option at this point, and this is kind of a hidden feature. If, for example, you realize that you get to the bottom, you're like, hey, I've got one more buyer who needs to be added to this. Here in recipients, in this 3 dots right here, you can edit the recipients. So it'll show the 3 that are currently there. If I needed to add someone new, I would just click add, put in their name, their email address, their signing, and save it here, and that would add them as another signer. So if you forget to add somebody, don't worry about it. You can definitely add them here.
Is that where you put in your TC too?
You can put them in here. Typically, I add my TC as someone to the file at the start of the transaction. That way they're automatically added to the transaction no matter what I do every single time. I don't have to add them in this particular location every time I do a new document.
Question, Jeff,
Yeah.
can you edit any of this after sending it?
Once you send, so once you get all of this filled out and you click send here at the bottom, there is no going back.
Okay. So you'd have to cancel, redo the whole thing.
Yep, you would cancel your envelope entirely and then you would redo your entire envelope again. It's a feature that I've asked for to be able to go back and edit it, but I don't know what their plan is for being able to do that.
Because not even Apple's caught on to that now. Just so you know.
Yeah, a lot of products have that ability. SkySlope itself had that ability where you could go back and edit an envelope. At this point, I haven't found a way to go back and do that.
Okay. Yeah, you would think because it's just sitting in the cloud. It's not like anyway, but what do I
Oh,
know?
yeah, I agree, right? They should be able to do that fairly easily. So
Yeah, it's not like they've signed it yet. Once they've signed it, obviously, yes, but it's just
Right.
sitting in a server. You know, it's not like it's locked in a closet somewhere. Anyway.
Right, 100% agree. All right, so at this point, we've just come into this screen. It shows your documents here. You've got a document list here if you need to jump to any in particular. As you scroll through, you'll notice that now at the bottom where signature or initials are needed, those initials have been added. It's hard to tell who each one is, but as you see up here on the signers pane, each person has their own color. So Sally's green, Bob's a light blue, and I'm a dark blue. So anything that's light blue is assigned to Bob. Anything that's green is assigned to Sally. If I wanted this date to be assigned to Sally, I can click on it and change that up here.
Oh, cool.
Right, so that can be changed as needed. You'll see that on the bottom of each one, there are, each of those are going to be the same. So they'll all be filled in. As signatures are already filled in and ready to go. You can see the 3 different colors. Those are assigned to those 3 different people. For some reason, that one is not the right color. So you would want that to be changed over to Sally's.
Does it date and timestamp or just date stamped?
So you can see in this one, it's only a date stamp, right?
Gotcha.
If I wanted to do a time and date, I could add one. So it's time and date both.
Gotcha. Okay.
And just replace it.
Jeff, is that address / phone line usually left blank anyway?
Yeah, 90% of the time we don't add these.
I know we did that
Welcome.
Previously, but
Yeah, you're welcome to add them in. It's kind of a non-required field. It's up to you on whether you want to make sure that those are filled in or not.
okay.
Jeff, since there were 2 buyers in this file, why was there only one date on the initials? Wouldn't you need a date for both?
No.
You don't actually. Yeah, you just need one date here, and you
For
can
either one?
certainly add 2 if you want.
Okay. So for either one, even though you don't know who's signing first and last?
Correct.
Okay. Because I always put 2.
I
Yeah,
always
the
make
division only requires one date there, but
I
you're
always
welcome
make
to
sure
put 2.
whoever's dating is the one I know is going to sign it on time.
It's a good tip.
Yeah.
Another
But in
question.
most cases, you'll know that on the signature is going to have your double dates, right? And so this is the more important part of it. If this date is the first and this date is the second, they're not going to come back and say, hey, this is probably the first, it's probably the second, right? So on every signature block, it's always going to be their own date.
Question.
Yep.
On the font, I've been seeing though, it's so hard to read. Can we change the font?
The signature font,
No. The font to fill in the forms.
oh yeah, unfortunately, no, it's just a default font that it is what they provide us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I will show you, lots of you who had SkySlope from iPro had issues with the text, or sorry, the checkboxes. So let me show you a checkbox and how they're improved in SkySlope forms. So in this one, we've got our attachments field. We need to make sure that we've got, there are not any attachments. So we put a checkbox in there. Over on this side, you can see that it shows that there's one in the group, and that's fine. Down below, Let me move that over just a little bit again. Down below, there's two boxes here. One is read only. So when you check that, it's not assigned to anyone and no one can change it. So your clients can't uncheck it, they can't recheck it, right? And if I want it checked by default, which I do, I'll check this box, check by default. That way I've got a checked checkbox that cannot be altered. So your client can't go in and change that on you and make it something different. That was an issue with SkySlope, the regular version, where it was very difficult. You had to assign it to yourself basically to make sure that no one else changed that checkbox for you. So that's an option for you as well. I'll just scroll down through here so you can see these have all now been filled in. They've got their signatures and dates for each one. I'm going to scroll clear to the bottom to the one that we brought in, the closing cost addendum. You'll see that on the closing cost addendum that we brought in from the MLS, there are no signatures here. Because that's not auto-filled because it got brought in from the MLS instead of being a SkySlope Forms product. So on this one, I would need to add signatures. I would add a signature for Sally. Click the signature again and assign this one to Bob. I would obviously need to put the date and time here. And then I would need check boxes for each of them. Now I've added this checkbox, and here's another tip for you. I've added this checkbox. I want one just like it. Over here on the side, I can click copy and paste. It gives me another checkbox exactly the same, and I can just move that one over. So I don't have to recreate it and recheck these every time. Another tip for you, and this is a copy and paste one. Let me show you on the Repsy. Where did the Repsy go? Did we delete it? Repsy must not have made it. So in any case, if you had a document, you can select all of this. You can see that all of this is now selected, and I can either hit Control or Command C, or I can click on copy over here at this side, and then I can paste it. And it will paste that entire block in so that I don't have to recreate that each time. So if I wanted to add that to this addendum, for example, I could just paste that in and then adjust those as needed. So that's a nice time saver for you to not have to click so many times in adding people's signatures. The nice part about that, why I was going to show you on the Repsy, is if you copy their initials at the bottom and the date, then you can just go to the bottom of each page and it will paste into the exact correct location. So you can just paste on all 7 pages and or all 6 pages and you're good to go. Any questions at this point on adding things? Oh, let me show you a couple of these other things that you can add. So full names. So if I want right here the buyer's names, I can just click here and do Bob's LLC. I can click another full name and put Sally's in. Then both names are automatically in. We talked about checkboxes. The property address in this one, I would want to use a text field. And I can put anything in here I want. Okay, same with settlement amount, that's going to be a text field. I can type. And as you adjust the size on the box, the font adjusts as well. But unfortunately, like was pointed out before, it doesn't change the font style. So you just get what you get as far as the font style. Date and time we talked about, and then strike through. I'm not going to show you because I don't want you to use it. Okay, questions about filling forms, putting in signatures, putting in initials, anything that I can help you with on this?
I
Okay,
have
so
one
at this
question
point,
on if we had an account with SkySlope, which we did, we had logins, and there was a problem last time using the MLS when we had the login active. Now we don't have a login, I'm assuming, because it's canceled and there's no conflict. Is that correct?
Yeah, that should be correct. If for some reason you still have an issue and a conflict, just reach out to SkySlope support and they'll be able to help you get that resolved on their end.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Jeff,
Yep.
is there a place you're gonna record and save these classes?
I'm actually recording it, and so I'll have it saved and I'll push it out to everybody if they want to rewatch it.
Okay.
Other questions?
Hey, Jeff, this is Ruben. Can you go
Yeah.
to files and I have a question. Can you go back to files? What you have on the file?
Back to the portion where I have the files.
Yes.
Yep, hold on. Okay.
Yeah, can you click on the test 103 test tree, the one that you created? Okay, so here you have a lot of forms, right?
Yep.
Is there a way that, since you have so many different versions, different changes, to create a folder here and put different folders with different, maybe addendums, information within these forms, in this place?
I understand what you're
file?
asking. Maybe group 3 or 4 of these forms into one
Right.
folder so that you have those in a
Right.
separate area.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not part of the ability of SkySlope forms is to be able to do that.
Okay.
But Jeff, if I'm understanding it right, once you get through a while, each group that you sent out for signatures will be separated in the file, right? Those will be
So
grouped
each group,
together.
right, each group that you send out, let me show you my, so we'll go and look at envelopes. They're in the envelopes. Once you send them out for signatures and they come back, they're going to be in envelopes. So you can see in my envelopes that I have a number of drafts that I started. I have a number of envelopes that got completed and signed, and it shows the date that they were signed. And if I were to click into them, it has what it is. I can download this or use it or whatever. And so those are still.
So if you name each group of documents you're sending out, then in the file, you'll have all those different file folders with different names. So it will be easy to find at least each one that you sent out.
Correct. Yeah. If I had named this, for example, Ambly-Addendum 4, this one Ambly-Addendum 5, right? At that point, it would be much easier for me to find what it is in this particular envelopes folder. What Ruben was asking, though, was simply grouping these blank documents for filling into folders that would be usable at that point in time because they're fillable.
Isn't that
So they're
essentially
different
doing the
things,
same thing
but-
as a template?
Yeah, so a template is much the same, except that there's no way to see that on this screen. In order to see the templates, you actually have to go into the templates up here and then pull them in. So it doesn't truly organize this particular screen, if that makes sense. Okay, other questions? And then we're back where I was. I've got this all filled out. I'm ready to go. It's ready to go over to my client. Everything's in place. And so at this point, if I pull this over for you a little bit, at this point, again, I can just exit and not save anything. I can save and exit, and that saves where I'm at. I can come back to it just like I just did, or I can send it, right? And at this point, I've got it all filled out. So I click send. Your subject line, you want to make it something that your clients know that you're sending them offer documents on 123 Main Street. And then your email message, this is the portion that they'll see in the email. I usually outline what the details are of the offer or the addendum or whatever document it is that I'm seeing and add my signature to it so that you know there's not an automatic signature added to your messages. And so I always put my signature in there so that they know it's from me. And then you'll just click send signature. That will go over to each of them to sign, and you'll get a pop-up so that you can go ahead and sign your version as well if you're a signer on it. Once it's signed by all parties, it will come back and it will, you'll get an email saying that it's been signed by all parties. You can download it there. You can also, like I showed before, if I can get back out of this, You can also go into each individual envelope and download that information from the envelopes. Okay, so that's a basic overview of SkySlope forms. What questions can I help with? What advanced questions can I help with? What issues are you facing? I'm open to anything at this point.
Jeff,
Yep.
you said that the email signature doesn't automatically appear in there, but I noticed you got it in there pretty fast. Is there a place where you put yours in SkySlope here?
No, sorry, that was I use a product called Text Expander, and so when I type 2 or 3 letters, it automatically populates a whole bunch of text for me.
Okay.
Other questions?
So Jeff, the way I have done it in the past, is I just save the documents, obviously in MLS, did like you said, you export them as a PDF and then imported them into DigiSign, which is really the same thing I do here. Either I do all the forms here, or I can still do them in the MLS and just import them for signature here, right?
Absolutely correct.
But you think this is a lot more efficient process, I guess, and they're saved here, where in the MLS, I guess they'd be saved in, well, they won't be saved in the MLS. They'll
Still be
here.
saved if you save them, right? So anything
Right.
that back over on the MLS, if I go to my forms and I go to my saved forms, if I've saved my form packets like I used to in the past, right, they're still all here.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you can save them just like you always have in the legacy version. It's just called legacy at this point instead of called forms and saved forms.
Yeah, so they'll import from SkySlope back over into the MLS in the legacy forms.
No, they don't come back over. So you can only go one way, but you can
Okay,
save them
okay.
if you ever need to take them back for any reason.
Okay,
Once
got
they're
it. So,
signed
yeah.
and everything's done, they stay here in the envelopes area.
Okay, okay. So you can do it either way. In my mind, I guess it either seems just as simple, but it may be easier just to have them all here.
Yeah, once you get used to this way, just having them in SkySlope forms, this is the much easier way to manage all your documents.
Okay.
Instead of having to take them first from the MLS, put them into SkySlope forms, take them out of SkySlope forms, and then put them into IntelliAgent. At this point, you've just got SkySlope forms and IntelliAgent. Those are the only two
Okay.
products.
Sounds good.
What other questions can I answer?
Hey, Jeff, the seller's disclosures, the new form on SkySlope is extremely long, and 16 pages compared to 6. Is that the only option we have?
Are you asking if you can use the 6-page one still?
Well, I know it's not available any longer, correct?
Correct. Yeah, you're not able to use the old form.
Okay, so I just have to kill a tree then.
Yeah, pretty much. The nice part is, let me pull the seller property condition disclosures in. The nice part is that it is now actually fully ready to be used. So if I want to go ahead and fill and sign this, I don't really have to do anything. I would type in obviously the seller name and the brokerage name. But on the seller side, once I send this over to be signed, I don't have a seller in here, so it won't auto-populate, but it auto-populates everything here and it assigns these fields, these yes, no fields. I'm gonna have to drag over a little. So these yes, no, not available or not applicable fields, these will be assigned to the seller and he can only select one of each one. And then these fields he can fill out. Sending this digitally is actually a really nice experience. It used to be really cumbersome to do this electronically, and through SkySlope Forms, sending this electronically works out really nicely. They can easily go in and fill this 16-page document out without having to print it out and send it to your client or take it to your client to wet sign.
And will it know if they've accidentally skipped one? Will it make them go back and?
No.
So
They're just like the regular forms, they can skip whatever they want and not fill in whatever they want. It's your responsibility to check it and make sure that it's right. Make sure that there's nothing that they need to change or update. Make sure that anything that you know is also disclosed. So all of those things are still on your plate. So it won't force them to choose one. They could go through and leave them all blank. You would just have to go back and tell them they're dumb and they need to fix it. What
Okay,
other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, guys, hopefully this was helpful. I am always available. So if at any point in time you need me, feel free to call, text, email me. I'm available pretty much 24/7. So if it's the middle of the night and you just don't know what to do, happy to help you. Happy to Zoom with you and screen share. I helped Marla Boren just this past week over the phone. She couldn't share, but I can usually walk you through it, just knowing the product as well as I do. So if you've got questions, if you've had issues, whatever, happy to help you through your first ones or first 20 or however many it takes for you to be comfortable with it. But honestly, where this is a free product and it works really, really well, this is what I've used exclusively since April of last year. I would encourage you to get used to it and learn it. It will be a really great tool for you. So I hope this was helpful. Again, feel free to reach out if you need any help. Guys, have a great week.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Very helpful.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.